We've all seen this kind of headlines. And once you see that, your brain does the most rational thing. It tries to draw a future. And it feels like in that kind of future you're replaced. But here's the thing. If we zoom out just a little, this panic that we feel today starts to look like another loop on the spiral. And I can prove that with one story from the 1800s and one chart from 2025. In the early 19th century, skilled textile workers, people who spent years learning and mastering the craft, started to see mechanized looms appear everywhere. And back then, no one was calling it progress. For workers, it felt like a matter of survival. And some of them even rebelled against it by literally smashing the machines. This is where we have the term Luddite from, which can still be used today if you want to call someone anti-tech. This was the first big modern fear. Machines are gonna replace our muscle. But today it's more like machines are gonna replace our minds. And even though looking at the headlines it feels like job replacement is the only real issue, there is another important problem. Microsoft in 2025 report found a capacity gap, where 53% of leaders say that productivity must increase, while 80% of global workforce say they don't have time and energy to do the tasks they already have. Because during the day, people are interrupted every 2 minutes. Microsoft found the average amount of interruptions per day is 275 per worker. Let me put a face on that. I'm going to use composite archetypes so we can see what this data looks like as a day in someone's life. Meet Sarah. Mid-level manager, 2 kids, normal job. She does the responsible thing, checks her inbox at 6:30 a.m. before the house wakes up, just to stay afloat. Then the day hits. Meetings, emails, half-finished tasks, and at 10 p.m. when she finally sits down, there is that third peak of activity again. Not because she loves the hustle, she has enough on her shoulders, but because her brain never got a clean off signal. So when we say capacity gap, what we really mean is Sarah is running a marathon in 2-minute sprints. And here's the thing we often underestimate it. Because when you're mentally exhausted, your brain's executive system starts to conserve energy. It gets worse in planning, focus, error checking. So we're not only scared of AI, we're scared that we need to perform more to keep up with it while we're already exhausted. And here's the pattern that is quite important. The first industrial revolution mechanized the muscle. This one is mechanizing certain kind of thought, especially the replaceable parts. But technology doesn't just break work. Historically, it rearranges it. This is how the economist David Autor put it. Automation does substitute for labor, but it also complements labor, raises output, and shifts demand towards work humans still do better. The loom didn't delete textiles. It deleted certain jobs in textiles and created new ones. Machine operation, logistics, supervision, maintenance. So the shift isn't humans are going to be replaced, it's humans are going to be reformed, from processing to management. The part where you decide what matters, what the system should do next, and what counts as done. Now, if that's true, why so many people still feel doomed? Because the fear is real, though it's not evenly distributed. Microsoft Work Trend Index report talks about a different kind of company, a workplace where AI is not a plugin, but it's treated like digital labor, like a teammate you can outsource tasks to. Microsoft calls these companies frontier firms. And here's the first data that matters for our nervous system. Because in these frontier firms, people have less anxiety towards AI. Globally, 43% of workers say they're scared that AI will take their job. And at frontier firms, it's 21%. And it's probably not because they're more certain in the future, but because they're already living this human plus agent reality. Let me make this 21% feel real. Meet James. Skeptic, eye-roll guy, his company gets labeled a frontier firm, and his first thought is basically great, the machines are coming. But then someone shows him a simple agent workflow, and he hands off the tasks he hates most. Cleaning records, scheduling, chasing confirmations. And he has this tiny aha moment where he realizes, wait, I'm not being replaced, I'm being unblocked. That's where the low fear is coming from. Not from optimism, but from proof. Because look at how workday is structured today. Microsoft shows that an average worker receives 117 emails and 153 chat messages a day. And by 10 p.m., 29% of people are back to work. So we're interrupted the whole day and then expected to do the real thinking at night. No wonder that at the end, workers don't actually hate automation. A 2025 Stanford study mapped what workers want automated versus what AI can actually do. And they found that workers mainly want to automate low priority and repetitive tasks, like scheduling, maintaining files, and correcting records. And number one reason for that is that they want to free time to do more high-value work. Nearly 70% said that. In the study, they call this sweet spot green light zone. High desire from workers and high capability from AI. But here's the disturbing part. 41% of AI implementation happens in red light and low priority zones, meaning that the automation happens on what workers don't want automated and what AI is not actually good at yet. So the fear is not just AI will replace me, it's also they're deploying in the wrong place and calling it progress. But if AI is being added to where it shouldn't be, someone has to be the driver's seat. This is the real change we're facing because we're not talking about learning prompts, we're talking about changing roles. Because this discussion is not really about whether AI will take your job. It's about whether you will stay a task-doer in a world that is buying systems or whether you will become a person who directs the system. And Microsoft has a name for this new role, the agent boss. A person who builds, delegates to, and manages AI agents. So, for example, instead of writing the deck, you supervise the deck. You prompt, iterate, and take decisions. It's an org design change because, let's be realistic, AI is not going anywhere for businesses. McKinsey 2023 report estimates that generative AI could add from $2.6 to $4.4 trillion across their use cases annually. And most importantly, generative AI and adjacent tech could automate tasks that take up 60 to 70% of employee time today. So the real value of this is not in making you type faster or process better. It's in stripping away the drudgery so humans can do what automation doesn't do well: judgment, coordination, priorities, and responsibility. And World Economic Forum projected the skills that would be valuable for employers by 2030. And among the core skills, there is analytical thinking, resilience, flexibility, and agility, creative thinking, because also these are the skills that won't be as easily substituted by AI. So the economic take is not humans are over. The economic take is human skills are being revalued. Because the report projects decline. Yes, they estimate that 92 million of jobs will be displaced by 2030. But they also project that 170 million of jobs will be created. And net is plus 78 million of jobs. And now I want to talk about the emotional part of this, because a lot of fear around AI is not rational, it's identity level. There is an ego issue that is rarely talked about, because for a lot of us, our identity is linked to being someone who knows things, being competent, being an expert, being a person that other people come to. And then the machine shows up and can generate a decent first draft of your expertise in like 3 seconds. So the transition to the agent boss is not just technical, it's also psychological, because it pushes you to shift from proving your value through output to proving your value through judgment. A 2025 paper by Christina Kuchmaner suggests that when people perceive AI relatedness, it's when we see AI as a category we can relate to rather than an alien competitor. It reduces the identity threat, and it makes the adoption psychologically easier. So the goal here is not to pretend it feels fine. The goal is to change the category in your head from something that is replacing me to something that I direct. For example, meet Alex. He used to spend most of his week on pure processing, copying data, formatting reports, moving information between systems. And now he's basically an agentic manager. One day the AI generates a clean-looking weekly report and everyone's about to ship it, but Alex notices something weird. The model omitted the category of refunds, and it wasn't malicious, it was just confidently wrong. If it goes out, the forecast looks healthier than it is, and the team makes the wrong call. So Alex stops it, traces the source, patches the workflow, and catches it before finance makes a call on bad numbers. That is the new job, because the agent boss has one sacred role: the supervision of reality, calibration, and staying awake at the wheel. And it's going to be an open-ended discussion because we've seen this loop before: fear, displacement, adaptation. Frontier firms aren't thriving because they added AI. They're thriving because they're redesigning work around the hybrid system of human plus agent. They're moving away from processing towards directing. And here's the question I want to leave you with. What part of your day is just moving information, and what part of it is actually directing the processes? Because if the current trend holds up, the system will be paying less for more processing and more for people who can send direction, verify reality, and make a call when the automation is wrong. And if you want, let me know in the comment, what's one task you would happily outsource to the agent tomorrow so you can save your human energy on more important things?